Hey guys, welcome to the video. It's Marshmallow. We have the June-July roadmap update for Lost Ark. It came out yesterday. I reacted to it on stream towards the end of stream, but I kind of wanted to just make a video because after giving it some time to think about all the stuff that about what's coming and all that kind of stuff, I kind of wanted to take some time, think about it, meal over it, sleep on it, and then come back and record a video. So that's what we're doing here. In this video, I will be it's kind of going to be like in two halves. Like, it'll be the same video but in two halves. The first half I'm just going to go over like what we're getting. It's just going to be very like no opinions, just this is what we're getting, this is the kind of things we're going to be expecting, and that kind of stuff for the roadmap. And then in the second half of the video I will then express my thoughts on how I feel about the roadmap itself and the certain things that they're going for. I also have a couple we're also going to go over the update for this week that came out today and on this Thursday, which is today. And then I also have a couple other websites that we're going to look at for when we get to the skin section of the roadmap. All the links for everything I show will be in the description below, so if you want to check it out for yourself and all that kind of jazz, you can just scroll down and check it out and it'll be pretty good. So we're just going to skip over this fluff and just go straight into the actual roadmap stuff. We'll circle back later when it comes to the my opinion part, because there's some stuff in there that's kind of telling. But so in June we're getting Vieques. Vieques is 1430 for normal and 1460 for hard, and Vieques is necessary because without her you can't complete a relic set, right? So a full relic set requires an assorted amount of materials from both Vulcan and Vieques, from different amounts depending on what relic set you're going for. Some relic sets, I think there's a relic set that's like half and half, and I think there's other relic sets where it's more towards one and then less towards the other. So like 4 pieces need one, and then 2 pieces need like the others, like material and stuff like that. So if you really want to get your relic set kind of like fully built and up and running, make sure you're at least 1430, if not 1460, before this drops. This is another raid. It has some gimmicks. This one, I think the raid itself is it's the meme raid, right? It's the booba raid that everybody likes. So but I think the actual mechanics, I think people are kind of mixed on how they felt about it in the other regions. But this will be pretty fun for people that can get up there and get their relic sets up and running, because this game's classes are kind of balanced around the relic sets. We're getting a new guardian raid. I hope you weren't tired of fighting the turtles, because there's a turtle in every tier. There's one in tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So he has a decent amount of mechanics, the ice turtle. He's 1460. This is something that's kind of important to know, which kind of surprised me a little bit. It's 1460. So that's, I think, what, 45 item levels from Descaluda. But I guess it kind of makes sense because of the jumps from plus 15 and higher are bigger. But it's the ice turtle. He has a lot of this. He has a lot of new mechanics. He has some similar mechanics to the old turtles, but I definitely, from what I've seen, they definitely kind of mixed up a lot of stuff with him. I think he's an interesting fight. For some classes he's going to be pretty frustrating, but I think for the most part, more fights, pretty fun. Then you should, I think he should guarantee relic accessories. Like, you should only be getting relic accessories and relic ability stones from him, if I'm not mistaken, because he's 1460. So new guardian raid, ice turtle. Hope you weren't tired of seeing the turtles, because he's here and you're going to be fighting him a lot. Throne Spire is coming. Throne Spire is a solo dungeon in the avenue of the other towers, except with one major difference, is that from what I understand, instead of having like different kinds of rooms of like kill boss, kill this, kill ads, survive, that kind of stuff, it's just like you running through killing you have to kill a certain amount of things within a certain amount of time to clear the floor. Throne Spire is one and done. Like, as far as from what I understand, it doesn't work like the other towers, where so the other towers you would have a first clear reward, and then you would get a reward after per character that was bound to that character for materials, with stones, shards, leap stones, that sort of stuff. From what I understand, Throne Spire is you do the first 25 floors once, and you'll get a roster bound chest of like materials that you can use, and then those floors don't give you any more rewards after that, from what I understand. Apparently the other 25 floors apparently are focused on prestige and completion times, whatever that means. I think that generally means don't expect anything from, like, the first 25 floors is kind of where most of it is at, where all the rewards are at, and then the other 25 floors are kind of just there if you want to do them. It'll be pretty nice. It'll be a nice little boost for classes that for people to try to boost up classes higher, but Unfortunately, it is a one and done kind of thing, like period, like per roster. So you kind of only do it once and you don't do it again. And it's a little unfortunate because I feel like that's kind of what's lacking in this game, is stuff that you can kind of do repeatedly. But you know, I'm not really going to complain for materials and all that stuff. But you can start at item level 1325, and then it scales up from there. From what I understand, you don't necessarily have to go in order like you do in the other towers, right? So the other towers, you have to go floor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I'm mistaken, in Thronespire, you could go like start, like say you could, if you feel you confident in like clearing like say floor 10 right off the bat, because you're just like maybe 14, 30, 14, whatever. I don't know what the scaling is, so I'm just pulling like random numbers. You can go to floor 10, clear floor 10, and then it'll give you the rewards for floor 1 through 10 if you hadn't completed the other floors prior to that. If I'm not mistaken. I think that's how it works. Because if it is, it greatly speeds up the process for people that don't like this kinds of stuff, and you kind of can get it done out of the way faster and kind of just port up your materials. The new store cosmetic is Yaz's Jar. This is the legendary skin system that we're getting. To be honest, I kind of wasn't really expecting it this soon, but it's here. So legendary skins are pretty cool. They have really cool designs. As you can see here, these are legendary skins for the Gun Lancer, the War Dancer, the Summoner, the Reaper, and the Artillerist. And the benefit of legendary skins is that they give you 2% main stat per piece that you have equipped. And if you don't like the design of the skin itself, whether it be the weapons or the actual like armor skins, they have an extra little overlay, skin overlay section that they'll have to the left or the right of them, depending on which side of the screen they're on, that you can then put like a purple skin that you like the look of better, right? So you can still keep the stats of the legendary skins while keeping the look of a skin that you like, and it's really easy. The way it works is that in order to get in order to have a chance to get the skin, is you need a Yaz's Jar, and then you need something called legendary cloth, or at least, or it seems like it's going to be cloth just for our region. I think in the other regions it's called legendary cloth or something like that. But basically the only way to get legendary cloth is by dismantling shop skins, from what I understand. Basically any skin that originates from the shop that you can get, you don't have to personally buy it from the shop. You could get it from the auction house, but someone has to have bought it off the shop, basically, is the gist of it. You then take those, you dismantle them, you get cloths, and then you need a certain amount of cloth with a jar to then kind of like RNG roll for a legendary skin. As far as I know, at least in the other regions, there's no pity system for the legendary skins. It's completely RNG. We don't know what if they'll keep the system completely intact for our region. We don't know like the specifics. We just know that the Yaz's Jar is coming and that legendary skins are finally coming. And at least from a cosmetic point of view, there's some really cool skins in there that I think a lot of people will like. July, we're getting the Arcanist. It's known as the Arcana in the other regions, and now it's been renamed to the Arcanist in our region. The Arcana is, I'm probably just going to be calling it Arcana because I feel like it fits more because of the card theme, personally. But the Arcana plays around, basically, kind of think about a Gambit from X-Men, but with like more magic, right? More magic based rather than like the kinetic energy thing he was doing. So it has a very cool systems. They got recently really good buffs from the class rebalance patch in Korea recently, which we have live. So that means she'll be coming with her class rebalance state. And I haven't really kept up to it because for me, Arcana was kind of like something I had some interest in because of the cards. Because like I love Gambit from X-Men. He's one of my favorite X-Men. The general gist of it is that as you use certain abilities to pull cards, and it's kind of RNG what cards you get, and then depending on what cards you get a certain buff. If you've played Astrologian in Final Fantasy XIV, basically think of their card mechanic, except more offensive oriented and more like self buff oriented. And so it takes some work because from what I understand, like they don't have a static rotation because the rotation kind of just changes based on what cards you're pulling. So it'll be pretty interesting. I think there's a couple people, or actually I think I've seen a good number of people that were pretty excited for it. I do know in PvP they are like a powerhouse and they're very good in PvP from what I understand, especially in solo queue. So if you like PvPing, this could be another solid option if maybe you wanted a mage class and you didn't like playing Sork or Bard in PvP. So you know, that'd be pretty interesting to see. We're getting Hell Mode Vulcan in July also. They renamed it to Infernal difficulty. I don't know why, but that's what it is. This is basically the hardest level. This is going to be the hardest content in the game until they release the next Hell Mode, basically is what it's going to be. Or until Belshazzar, but I think we'll get the next Hell Mode before Belshazzar, probably. Basically, there is no rewards for this. This is basically mostly for bragging rights. You get a night for clearing the raid, well, the hell mode raid. You get a statue of the Legion commander himself. So, for instance, this first one, you'll get a big old statue of Vultan in his like resurrected form, and then you get a title. There are two titles, from what I understand. One title is for just clearing Vultan, just clearing Vultan hell mode, just easy peasy. And then there's another title that you can get for clearing it deathless. Something to note is that the gate system does not work here. So like in normal and hard mode Vultan, you have the gate system where you can do the first gate, and then you can stop, and then do the second gate on a different day at a different time. Hell mode doesn't have that. Hell mode is kind of all, you have to do it all at once. If you clear the first boss, and then you go to Vultan, and then you guys disbanded Vultan for whatever reason, either ran out of time, someone got sick, emergency came up, you have to do the whole hell mode all over again from the first boss onward. For the deathless title run, you have to do the entire run deathless. So if you clear the first boss deathless and then somebody dies on Vultan, you then have to restart the whole hell mode fight back at the first boss and go again, because it has to be deathless for the whole run for the title. I do know in Korea that apparently hell mode Vultan is kind of considered the peak of hell mode. At least it was. I think Kakul Seidon's is kind of up there also. I think a lot of people liked it, but I know that like Vultan in general seems to be like a very popular raid fight in Korea, and a lot of people like his designs, like for the actual fight and stuff like that. Something to note is that your gear is not does not like the gear you have equipped has no bearing on in hell mode. You basically get scaled down. So for instance, to enter this hell mode, you'll need to be 1445, which is the item level you'll be scaled at, and then it'll require you to use the Book of Coordination. I know a lot of people probably haven't used the Book of Coordination, and I'll show you how to get there in a little bit after we finish talking about this. Because it's mostly a PvP thing for now, like until now, but with hell mode, and I think with hell guardians, which come later, this will be this will start seeing more use, at least for the very high-end players who very much like hard raiding and stuff like that. Because you can think of hell mode kind of like mythic raiding from World of Warcraft, or savage raiding from Final Fantasy 14, except that you can't, like, you know, except everybody's always at the same item level and there's no like gearing up and getting stronger to clear it faster. The nice thing about this is that you don't need to have to farm different gear or different engravings or anything. Everything is provided to you from the Book of Coordination. It'll give you all the runes that you can choose. It'll give you an assortment of, I think it's level 7 gems that you can use for free in the Book of Coordination itself. And it'll give you the ability to choose a certain amount of tripods to put them at max level, on top of being able to choose what set bonus you want active. So it's for when it comes to actual like gear, when it comes to like your armor, your engravings, your runes, and your gems, that's a very, very low barrier to entry. You literally only have to be 1445, and then you can just set up your Book of Coordination with everything you want and then jump straight in. It'll give you the tripods, it'll give you everything, because it basically it puts everybody on an even playing field. Everybody is 1445, everybody has the same amount of resources in the set bonuses and all that kind of stuff. So if you really like hell modes, or if you want to at least attempt it, that's a very low barrier to entry for gear. There is no weekly attempt lockout for this. You can do this as much as you want. So, you know, if you like doing this, you can just keep doing it over and over again. Just do understand that there's really no actual reward past like the first clear, aside, unless you're going for like a deathless run. So aside from that, there's no like progression gear. You know, you don't get materials, you don't get items, you don't get anything like that. This is really just for people that like really hard raiding, or people that want to at least attempt that kind of raiding style. So I have the game open in the background, and we're gonna go look real quick. So the Book of Coordination, which is predominantly used in PvP, you have two ways of getting there. If you have the arena on your minimap here, this little button, you can click that, and then it has a button for the Book of Coordination. And up here, you'll have two options. Like you see, it says Proving Grounds now, and some people might remember that it used to say like Guardian raids and then like Legion raids here a while back, and then they got rid of them because they weren't in the game yet, because they were for Hell mode. They were for Hell Guardians and Hell mode raids. But basically. And then the other way to get there is you can also just hit escape, and it's here under characters, underneath integrated presets. You can go to Book of Coordination, and then again, you'll be able to choose. So as you can see, I won't be able to show you everything because, you know, they only have the PvP one available, but as you can see, it gives you already a static amount of skill points. So if you haven't farmed up a lot of skill points, you're fine. You don't even need to worry about your stats because you can manually set it'll give you an allotment of stats that you can then manually set yourself. It'll be more than this because this is 1,000 just for PvP. I think like you'll be able to get 1,500 in a stat and like 750 somewhere else if you wanted for hell mode and stuff like that. But as you can see, you have everything. You'll have the skills you can choose. You'll have tripods, or you'll have skill points to put in. It'll give you all the runes. As you can see over here, it's grayed out because it's PvP. But when you choose an ability, you can choose the skill rune menu, and then you can choose it'll have like a list of all the skill runes in the game, and you can use that. The tripod levels you'll have here, it'll give you a certain amount that you can like activate, but it'll have like level 1 and then like level 5 to the side for the hell mode stuff. So you can choose which ones you want at like max level, and you'll have a certain amount of those. Here you'll see the gems, which then this is where you'll choose the gems that you want for your abilities, your cooldown and DPS gems, and then you can manually select your engravings. I think it's a maximum of 4 or 5. I don't remember how much it is for hell mode vault-in. And then down here you can see where it says set bonus tuning. This is where you select what set bonus you want active while you're doing the fight. So maybe you're kind of torn between 2 set bonuses, you don't really know which one works better. You can come down here and kind of flip-flop between the 2 on attempts, and it'll be perfectly fine. Granted, again, it's a little hard to show you guys everything because I only have the PvP one, but this is basically the gist of what you'll get. As you can see, it's a very low barrier to entry when it comes to things like your runes, your gems, your engravings, your set bonuses, and your skill points, because it's all provided to you, and even your stats, from your accessories. All of that is provided to you by the Book of Coordination. Now, the part that is kind of like a little bit higher barrier to entry, which I feel is pretty important to talk about, is that the consumables you need for this raid are you have to provide your own. It's basically BYOB for consumables. You have to bring it yourself, and they are consumed when you use them. And you have to use dark bombs at the very least. The 2 mandatory like consumables for the hell modes is predominantly purple potions, so you can get 7 of them, and dark bombs, because without dark bombs you really won't reach, from what I understand, these raids are basically designed that without dark bombs you cannot meet the DPS checks. So that's something to keep in mind if you were interested in hell mode raiding, is that I would suggest probably stocking up on like those 2 sort of consumables if you want to go into them, because you're going to use a lot of them. In July we're also getting the challenge abyssal dungeons, which is another big source of once a week injection of materials alongside with card packs. So basically with this, it's kind of up there with the challenge guardian raids. You do it once per week per roster. You will be scaled down to a certain item level depending on what abyssal dungeons you're doing, and it'll give you an assortment of loot that you can get for materials and all that kind of stuff. And then it also gives you these interesting card pack selections where you can choose what deck you want to open from. So I think like a lot of people probably don't know this, so I'll show you what it is. There's a thing in the cards called card decks. A lot of people, or card packs, sorry. A lot of people I think don't realize this because we haven't had to worry about it till now. But as you can see, if you mouse over cards, you start to see that at the bottom, for instance, we'll look at the Solus cards because that'll be probably the premium example. If you go down to the bottom, you'll see it says, I'm kind of covering it a little bit. There we go. You'll see that it says that at the bottom, right under where it says Lost Wind Cliff, 5 out of 6, maximum activatable set bonus count, 2 out of 5. Right underneath that, it says Card Pack, Fearless Knight Card Pack, and Card Pack Strong Courage Card Pack. So something that's interesting about the Challenge Abyssal Dungeons is that they give you a card pack that you get to choose which one of these card packs you want to get stuff from. So it makes it a lot easier to get like Solus cards, for instance, for the Lost Wind Cliff set out, and gives you a higher chance of getting it. Now, the difference of that is I'm thinking, I think the legendary cards, for the most part, for what we want, don't have like card packs they're associated towards. So this is kind of more just, I feel like it's more designed just to help you with probably get like your Solus cards and stuff like that, and maybe some other card decks like built up. But another thing that's really nice to know is that you do have an RNG chance to get legendary selector card packs from the Challenge Abyssals, either as an RNG drop from completing the Abyssal Dungeon, or as a loot auction option at the end of the dungeon. So It's definitely a really big help for completing card sets and stuff like that, which will be really important. I feel like it will be more important now going forward because we're getting into harder and harder content. But that's basically everything that we're getting in the roadmap for June, July. So that's kind of going to be the end of the information segment. Now we're kind of going to go into like my opinion on this roadmap. And my opinion is that I am mixed. To be honest, I have a very mixed opinion on this roadmap because I don't agree with some of the things they're trying to do. And when I was looking through the forums last night, the reasonings they're trying to use to explain themselves for the decisions they've made just make no sense to me. So we're going to start off with kind of like the elephant in the room and the fact that they have decided to do a team class cadence of releasing one new class every 2 months. So basically one class every roadmap. Rox on Twitter, if I'm mistaken, has clarified that since the Arcana is coming out on July, that the next new class would be September. I can't personally say I agree with this because the big thing is that what I was kind of surprised about, I didn't actually expect them to say this, is they kind of basically admitted that they're perceiving class releases as content, like content. As you can see here, it says, you know, we know some players are eager to max out their roster and want them even faster, but class releases build excitement and bring new and returning players into Arcadia. This is they're treating the classes as content release. The problem with that is that one, Lost Ark is a game that you kind of need alts, right? And a lot of players, even if they don't want to main these other classes, may not be interested in all the classes we have readily available. And they may have been looking forward to some of the classes. I think one of the most obvious things when it comes to classes that a lot of people were waiting for is Summoner, because Summoner was in the CBT and then abruptly got pulled from the release lineup. And we were all kind of expecting that to be the first like class added to the game, but instead it's not even the first, second, nor the third class added to the game. So it's very odd. The other problem with this is that there's 5 classes left, including Arcana. So that means it'll be 10 months before we see all the classes that we already have out in the Korean client, which means we won't even have all the classes by the end of this year. Which is also another problem because in Lost Ark, it's very, very, very hard to re-roll if you want to main something else. Even with, like, they try to butter it up with the whole, we're going to release like, you know, fast progression stuff. None of that matters because none of the progressions systems they have in the game, the catch-up systems, at least that I've seen in Korea, do anything for the relic sets. Or even worse, the ancient sets, or like the ancient armors, when people start farming those with Belshazzar. But that's, you know, further down the line. But the point is that if they keep this cadence where they release like one Legion raid boss every roadmap, and then they release one class every roadmap, it's gonna, like, any player who's like class is towards the end of the release is probably not gonna be a player who wants to play your game, to be honest. Like they're gonna fall so far behind everybody else that I've already seen a lot of people saying that they don't plan on playing this game. I personally know a lot of people that they kind of have already like given me a heads up that they're like, yo, with this whole class cadence going on, I'm probably not going to be playing the game too much because I don't know when the class I want is going to come out. So it's really it's an unfortunate decision. I hope they rethink it, especially because the reasoning that they're using is because they're saying that the reason they're spacing it out is because they want Lost Ark to last a long time in the West and that they don't want content to dry up. You don't want content to dry up, but you're releasing Hell Mode Vulcan 2 months after Vulcan came out? When I think the first Hell Mode, well, actually I don't know when the first Hell Mode is, so I'm not even going to try to like say it. But Hell Mode, all I know is that Hell Mode Kakul Seidon recently just came out in Korea a couple months ago. And before that, like Viekis was kind of like the big, like Hell Modes are not something that get dropped very soon and very often in Korea. I don't know. I can't agree with their stance on the class things. I think they should do at least like once a month, at least all the way up to artist, get us caught up, and then after that find a cadence that they like. Because the problem is that, again, Lost Ark is not a game that catching up or replacing is very easy. I can personally attest to this because I have a 1392 destroyer when I had a 1400 scrapper a week before destroyer came out. Like if I hadn't restarted on destroyer, I would probably be 1430 on the scrapper by now, or at least been pretty close. I definitely would have been over 1400. I would have been 1415 pretty easily with the amount of materials I had to spend to get the destroyer to 1392. And I have been dropping every single day. Like as soon as I have enough for a hone, I go over and I hone the destroyer because I'm trying to catch him up to the scrapper. Right? This is going to be the start of the 3rd week that I've had destroyer, and I still haven't been able to catch him up. And this is with me having enough materials to get him to tier 3 day 1 and start honing him day 1 and get him a full legendary set of armor by the start of week 2. Like it's hard to catch, and this is now, right? This is like right now. Imagine when you have relic sets and you're trying to, and you say you have like a character that's at like plus 20 something, and you're trying to catch up because it's like they release, I don't know, say you wanted to play like Scouter and they don't release Scouter anytime soon, and it's like 6 months before they release Scouter, and then you're trying to catch up all this time because you have like a character that's in full relic gear and he's doing hard modes and all this other stuff, and now you're trying to catch the Scouter up who you really want to play, and then when you actually play it, you really want to main it. It's not going to make people feel very happy, really. It's really not, because it's not easy. The gold cost is really steep. Even though we have reduced gold cost in our game, it's still really steep to try to quickly push a class. And because like for instance, I was at like 80,000 gold before destroyer dropped, and I've been like struggling to stay. Now that my honing has slowed down because I'm getting locked by Great Honor Leapstones is now when I'm starting to get more gold again, and I've gotten pretty lucky, so I'm almost back up. But it took me 2 weeks to recover the amount of gold I had to spend into the destroyer to get him this far. And even then, this is probably going to go down the drain here soon because it's weekly reset a day for me, and so it's going to be pretty hard to deal with. Another thing that I'm not too keen on is the fact that it doesn't seem that we're getting any changes to the legendary system. This is straight gacha. Like, there's no pity from what I understand. Again, we don't know. I'm going to reserve judgment on the legendary skin thing, specifically because we don't know if they're going to do any actual changes to the system itself. Right now, we understand that they're keeping the jar and the RNG aspect of the system in place, and the dismantling. So you have to dismantle skins that are from the shop to get cloth, and then you have to buy a jar, and then you have to combine those together to then hopefully randomly get a skin that you want. And if I'm mistaken, it's like a piece of the skin, so you have to do it multiple times if you want multiple pieces. Aside from those, we don't know what else they're going to do with the system. For instance, we don't know if dismantling one piece of skin will give us enough cloth to automatically do one attempt for a skin, because if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, in Korea you have to dismantle, I think it's like 2 skins in order to do one attempt, right? It's not like a 1-to-1 ratio. So we don't know if they're going to keep that in it. We don't know if the Yaz jars, like if their cost is going to be the same. Stuff like that, and we don't know if maybe they'll add a pity system to the legendary skins in our version. Like we just don't have enough information to know how much of a pain this is going to be. We kind of have to see where it's going to go, and we'll have to see like what they do with it in the June update with the more specifics. But I don't think this is going to go over well from a gacha standpoint. From a visual cosmetic standpoint, the legendary skins look fantastic. They're really cool. I really like the skins. They're visually very nice. And something of interesting to note, which is what we're going to jump into right now, is that it seems that we're not getting the first season of legendary skins. So this is where we're going to go to some of the other websites that I've looked at. This is Saint Tone's directory. There'll be a link in the description. Again, there'll be a link for all these web pages in the description, so that you can kind of look through it yourself. But this is Saint Tone's directory. It's really, really nice. It has a lot of useful things on it that are still useful even now. And the costume directory wiki, which is right here, is what we're using, which is completely in Korean, but you can translate it. So for instance, you see this is the legendary avatar season 1, the promise, and as you can see, this is the Gun Lancer legendary season 1 skin. This is the Gun Lancer. This is not the legendary skin season 1 Gun Lancer. We go down to like, this is the Berserker skin, which is also interesting. Basically what I'm getting at is we're not getting the season 1s at the beginning, it seems, or at least they're not promoting it, which is interesting because this armor set, which is the season 1 legendary Berserker armor set, is the armor set that they have for the promo. for all of the promo stuff for Berserker, like the banner in Steam at the top that it shows you. This is the armor that he's in. Is this armor set? But then we can go down. This is a War Dancer. As you can see, again, this is War Dancer. This is not the same skin. So basically, the gist I'm getting at is that it seems that they're not going to start with the season 1 stuff. They're going to start with the season 2 stuff, which is this set. Because as you can see here, this is the like white silver armor that the Gun Lancer is wearing. So you can kind of tell that this is where we're going. So these are the skins we're going to get for the legendary skin for the first season, which I don't think is really that big of an issue, because I think for the most part, most people were looking forward to the season 2 anyway. And you can tell that the designs are definitely much more advanced and more interesting, I would say, than the other ones. Personally, I'm looking forward to the Destroyer one, the black and blue one. I want that one, like the armor itself at least. The hammer looks cool and all, but the armor is kind of where it's at for me. There's the Paladin set that everybody likes, the like Batman Beyond looking one. Striker, War Dancer, Scrapper I don't really care too much for, unfortunately, so I'll probably have to reskin that one when I get it. Soulfist, Glaver, Deadeye, Artillerist, Sharpshooter, Scouter, Gunslinger, Bard, Summoner, Arcana, Deathblade, Shadowhunter, Reaper. Now you may have noticed something interesting here. And the other interesting point that we've seen here is this is the Summoner skin, legendary skin, and this is the Reaper legendary skin. Something of interesting to note is that in the PvP video, the 2 class icons that we saw that were new that, you know, aren't in our version yet is Summoner and Reaper. Now, I'm not saying this confirms anything, but it is potentially, this is their way of saying that Summoner and Reaper may be the next in lines, because they do say that in the class stuff that they do plan on releasing the first 21 advanced classes before other new or future classes. And I feel like this is also their way of saying that they're going to start releasing stuff just in the order of potentially like oldest to newest, which are kind of, which I mean, they kind of threw in the air already with Glaver, but I feel like Glaver got thrown in there because of the whole class rebalance patch, which I mean, in the end of the day, they could have just thrown Summoner in, because Summoner also didn't get any real big changes. So I don't know what they're trying to say with this. We'll kind of just wait and see how they do it. We already talked about the how I feel about the classes. In regards to the actual official classes, I don't personally care too much of the order that they come in. I just don't think that they should be one every 2 months, personally. I think that that's a bad choice, and I hope that at least after this roadmap, because I doubt they'll change their mind in this roadmap, they'll kind of like revisit it, and at least in the summer drop like decide to, like in the August, September, maybe drop 2 classes there instead. I don't agree with Vault and Hell mode coming out already. Like, because Vault and Hell mode's kind of designed more in mind with people who can basically do hard mode Vaultin blindfolded, is kind of what this is designed for, from what I understand. Well, it's very hard. Like, again, you need dark bombs, and it's to the point that like supports don't take their defensive skills in these raids, because they need to only be pumping attack buffs, and they really only need to be like doing damage to try to make these DPS checks. So it's a very, very tight DPS checks on the mechanics, and it's pretty hard. And I don't really understand the reasoning in releasing it 2 months after Vaultin itself released, because first of all, Hell modes is something that even if Vaultin was out for like a couple months before they dropped it, is not something a lot of people would do. It's very, very top end. In World of Warcraft, the amount of guilds that do mythic raiding, and to me, when I say mythic raiding, I mean like guilds that do the entirety of mythic, they killed from the first boss to the last boss, or at least they attempt to, is a very, very, very minuscule part of the entire raiding community. Even if we ignore the LFR section, there's more there's astronomically more guilds that do normal heroic raiding than there are the guilds that do mythic raiding, and that's with having loot incentives. And the same thing would apply to Final Fantasy XIV's Savage raids. The Savage raids probably see a bit higher than mythic raids, but at the same point, it's still not going to be as much as people who just do the normal versions of the raids in 14. These Hell modes are at those levels. These are the Savage / mythic level raids, basically. And they're very hard, and they don't give any sort of like actual material incentive, which I don't think is a problem personally. But I think the issue is that choosing this as a content drop in July of all times, which is summer, peak summer, where everybody's doing it, I find it questionable at best. Especially when I feel like maybe they chose this over like And like if I had to choose between this and a new class, obviously we're gonna choose a new class. If I had to choose, hell, if I had to choose between this and Kukul Seidon, like the fight, the 4-man fight, I'd choose Kukul Seidon. I choose Kukul Seidon practice mode, which is another like weekly thing you can do that gives you extra materials from a vendor. And you can get like cool little emoticons and stuff like that. Like there's other things, right, that they could have added instead of Hell mode Legion raids. And I'm not quite sure what led them to this decision to add the Hell modes, right? Because I honestly don't think a lot of people are going to play it very like this soon. You're probably going to see like some of the more hardcore people try to do it. Like it'll probably attract. I think they're probably trying to attract some of like the Mythic Raider people, because like in World of Warcraft and Savage and like the Ultimates. Well, actually, I think this is closer to the Ultimates than it is for the Savage fights. To be honest, I think Savage is probably closer to hard mode. So in 14 they have the Ultimates, which are very, very, very hard fights, which also don't have like an actual reward. It's a cosmetic reward is basically what you get. You get a nice little weapon skin. But even then, again, a very, very small amount of the community does Ultimates, right? Like it's a very minute amount. The fact that they chose to release this, in my opinion, this early into our version is, first of all, weird, because I feel like for the most part, most players that pick this up that didn't play in other regions probably aren't ready for Hell modes, and it's a very big gold sink for materials, because you're going to be using a lot of purple potions, you're going to be using a lot of dark bombs, and neither of those are very cheap. So I don't know, I don't personally agree with it. I think Hell modes themselves are cool. I just think that releasing Hell mode Vulcan this early is not that great. To be honest, I was actually expecting Vieques to come out in July rather than in June, because in reality you want to be at 1460, because you want to do the 1445 Vulcan and then you want to do the 1460 Vieques, so that way you're guaranteeing yourself making relic sets very, very easily. The amount of people that will be at 1460 to do Hell mode Vieques is not very many, right? Like you know, you'll see a lot of streamers and all that, but which kind of might skew your perception on it, but a lot of players really aren't that high, even if you didn't restart on a class like Glaver or on Destroyer like I did, and you don't plan on restarting on Arcana. Like it's a very steep climb to get there. Something of note, again, they did say that not everything that is coming is put in this roadmap, and we haven't seen anything on the about honing buffs, and that also kind of concerns me, because like I think at the very least tier 1, tier 2 honing buffs should be put in the game, if not just all the honing buffs. I think by like, especially if they're going to release Vieques, I really think they need to put the tier 3 honing buffs in the game, because let me tell you, tier 3 climbing with the honing buffs is not easy. It's not easy. But that's basically my thoughts on it. I think the challenge abyssals are nice. I really like that these are coming. I think this should have been in June personally, but is what it is. But I think so for the most part I have mixed feelings about this roadmap. I'm gonna kind of wait till we get like the specific June patch notes, which should be, if the new event is anything to go by, it should be June 16th. So we should be getting the patch notes at least June 15th. So that's only like what, another 2 weeks, so like 1 or 2 weeks. So it'll be it shouldn't be too long before we get it, and from there we can probably kind of like make a more educated mindset of like how they're gonna do stuff. We're gonna quickly cover the weekly update patch from this last week. Something that is really important to note is that Chaos Dungeon Exchange vendor rewards will no longer be tradable. Everything will be bound to the character, but the shards will still remain roster bound. So you can still transfer the shards from one character to the other. If you have, say, like, I would say something like a Berserker who's really, you know, you kind of just unga bunga through Chaos Dungeons and you're doing infinite chaos and you just use your Berserker, like, you can still farm your mats, or you can still hoard, like, save up mats for new classes that are coming out and then redeem it on those. Just know that you can no longer funnel materials, right, from classes, from like other characters over for the material, for the tier 3 stuff, and you can't sell those anymore if you were using those as a way to try to make like some money on the side with your infinite chaos. A little unfortunate for like the average player. They're trying to do this to combat the bots. I don't know if it'll actually like help, but it is what it is. Then they fixed some issues, some bugs and all that. I think for the most part this was like really the most important thing for most players, and the rest of it is a lot just bug fixes and stuff like that. But basically that's pretty much everything I had to talk about. The video probably still went a little longer than I was planning, but I think that I think it'll be fine. I don't know if I hope they don't stick to the class thing. I guess we kind of got to be, if you're not a big fan of the class stuff, I definitely think you should kind of be probably more vocal on the forums. I don't know if it'll actually change their mind, because it seems like they're kind of just knuckling down and doing it. But we'll see. But yeah, so that's basically it for the roadmap and the update. That's my thoughts on it. Let me know down in the comments like what you guys think about it. Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether do you agree with the class stuff? Do you agree with what's going on? How do you feel about the roadmap? All that downstairs. I do stream on Twitch from Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central, and I also have a Twitter that I am relatively active on, and I do a lot of I will post like updates and stuff like that when I go live, and I'll post just random shenanigans like we are LeChunk gang in this household because LeChunk is the most adorable thing on the planet, and I love LeChunk. But yeah, so thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope you know, at least this gives you guys a more probably a more detailed view, because I feel like they kind of glossed over certain information in the roadmap for stuff that's kind of important to go over. And again, just let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below, and I'd love to hear back from you guys. So anyway, that's it from me, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.